Welcome, it's Monday on Your View. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies of Your View. Good morning. How you guys doing?
I'm doing amazing. Not so amazing, with the news all over the...
It's been a crazy weekend, actually. I mean, my sadness has started from the EMVC when King of Boys didn't get anything out. That already
you watched or you were there?
I watched.
No, she wasn't there.
I watched on TV.
Okay.
Then the sadness on Sunday made it worse. But let me just ask you, what did you do over the weekend?
Okay, well, it was my daughter's exit day. We usually
What does that mean?
Okay,
When
so
she's leaving
once
school?
in a month, you come to school, you take the kids out and return them before 6 p.m.
Times have changed.
Yeah,
Wow.
so you get to spend time with your children. So we get to see her twice a month.
Oh, wow.
So on Saturday was our exit day. We all had to go to the island. From the island, we went to school, picked her up, stayed with her, took her out, then returned her.
Oh,
you know, that was
fantastic.
then we started heading back to our village in Alakoko. That was just my weekend. Yeah.
How are you doing, Toya Anima? How was your weekend?
I'm grateful to God. At least I was still able to unwind with my family yesterday at my nephew's birthday. It was 10 years yesterday. Happy birthday, AJ, again. And I must say thank you to all those online, social media, everybody calling out. My phone just kept ringing. I thought I was working with the customer care.
Yeah. People were tweeting at Nima
Some
over and over. They were
numbers,
tweeting at
calling,
Nima, asking.
sending DMs, reaching out and wondering whether I'm fine, thankfully. And I'm still worried. My friends and family on the other side of the Abule Ado, of course, were affected, but I'm grateful to God.
Yeah, I got lots of calls too. Even my family calling me. I spoke to her. She's fine. So we thank God for that. How are you doing, Tokwe?
I'm good. I went partying on Saturday.
You had the party?
You did not see her status?
I rarely go to, you know, it's not as if I go to parties all the time, but when I
you
go,
I go.
I'll go and
So
check the status.
it will have gone.
Rocky,
Yes, I went. There are two things I do at parties. I eat
And you
everything,
dance.
and I dance every dance danceable. And I did it very well. There was food, and I was Auntie Oye, God will bless you. You see, when you go to parties with some women, immediately she sat down and they brought food. She now opened her purse, gave the person a tip, and said, "This table must never be empty." As he left, the drink person, he said, opened the purse, gave the person, "This table must never." That was how they were just bombarding us with everything.
That's a new trick.
Left, right, center. I said, "Oh, I did not know this one. This Lagos party people, they know how to get it done." It was fun, and yeah, the sad news yesterday was really, really bad. I feel very, very, like, you know, this, I saw a video and it really broke my heart. They were carrying a bloodied woman from the building. I'm like, this country, it is well.
I think the Reverend Sister who risked her life for
To save those
all the
children.
children. She made sure all the girls got out. She rescued all the girls before she, unfortunately, I heard that the ceiling collapsed on her. And I mean, I think she deserves a moment.
And the Reverend Father holding mass for them as well. So 2 of those people were the first confirmed cases of those who died.
Yes, really, really sad indeed. A family of 4. I mean, it's in the papers. It's really, really sad. Let's go on a break. Today, we're going to try to focus a bit on this story because we know the governor, I'm told, is at the venue right now. So we'll be linking up to him to find out what's going on. If we have any updates concerning the reports. So we'll be linking up to that scene. And we'd like to get callers from that neighborhood. Call us, let us know what your experience was like. That's going to be our focus today. But first, we'll go through the front pages of the newspaper. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Right. We'll start with The Nation. Explosions rock Lagos. That's the story today. Family of 4, Reverend Sister among 17 that are dead. 50 buildings, many vehicles destroyed. Catholic girls secondary school pupils injured. How it happens by NNPC. Sanwo-Olu to residents keep safe. Tinubu anti-Oshomole forces subverting Buhari's government. And 2 Nigerian foreign-based doctors die of COVID-19. As I said, the explosion is all over the papers, but let us talk about it very quickly here. Or do you want to take the other story? The Nigerians that died, yes.
So 2 foreign Nigerian medical professionals, I think Dr. Olumide Okunuga and a London-based female medical doctor, her name wasn't given. So this Dr. Olumide, it's based in Italy, where he's been serving for about 35 years. He's, I think, 64 years years old, and he's been very active, especially in the Yoruba community, where he's like the president to that particular community. He has lost his life to COVID-19, and they are saying that they can't even allow the family have access to his corpse. He has to be cremated and all of that.
He was a pathologist, really popular guy. I mean, people I know,
people are really
my in-laws, I have in-laws that grew up and raised in Italy, so they know him very well.
Wow.
And he's this man that he was a pathologist and quite popular in the community in Italy.
So,
you want to talk about Tinubu's story? Go ahead.
Tinubu has finally spoken up concerning the crisis rocking the APC, particularly Oshomole, through his media aide, said that these people are ambition virus. It's the ambition virus for 2023, and that is still 3 years away from now. They should focus on governance. Specifically, he said, noting that their vision is blurred and their judgment faulty. He said that the focus should be on governance, and most of them are just trying to get, as Democrats, we cannot physically quarantine them. However, we must quarantine their ideas and antics to falling prey to them. So basically just
Furthermore, what he was also focusing was the fact that he does acknowledge that Oshomole has his flaws and his merits. However, there are internal mechanisms within the APC to fix, to resolve those issues. And those who are clamoring for his ouster are those who are actually looking for 2023.
That he is would admit, he would, you know, it's easy for him to admit that the politics and the theatrics of politics is not something that Oshomole can single-handedly be faulted for. What happened in Zamfara, you have to blame the Zamfara local APC and the governor for the former governor for that. The same for all the states that were affected.
What he's saying is not going to the past. He's saying that the plan is for the future. What Tinubu is saying is that the people that are causing this crisis are not based on the past. They are calculating 2023.
Let's move on to the punch. Oil crash. Nigeria may lose $8.63 billion in 6 months. Fake naval officer arrested for mutilating man's private parts. LASU VC, other beneficiaries of dubious promotions and appointments, says ASU official. Principal, 16 others killed, 50 houses raised in Lagos gas plant. 8 arrested for killing police inspector in Ogun. And Kwara probes civil service to weed out ghost workers. Story, stop.
Yeah, so a police inspector is part of the border patrol unit. The national border team was killed in the Yewa North border area, Imasai location specifically, and there were 8 suspects. They said that one, they hit him with a car, took his gun and shot him to death. Good news is they've captured the suspects and they are going to follow the rule of law and get ensuring justice. Our heart goes out to the family of police officers that are serving and still get this kind of treatment. It's really sad.
The human interest.
Yes,
Go ahead, please.
officer. So this fake, he's been impersonating a naval officer, Ali Aziz, had an argument with one Sunday Amo, and then he took out a jackknife, a military jackknife, and mutilated his private parts. Thankfully, he's been arrested. The Sunday Amo, who is the victim, has been taken to the hospital, is responding to treatments. Investigations are ongoing, and they are saying that he's likely to be charged for that offense.
Okay, moving on quickly to Vanguard. Explosion rocks Lagos. Derivation, Okowa doubts funds declared by NNPC. Alleged dethronement, Fayemi visits Alafin as Ekiti Oba's one Oyo monarch. COVID-19, Enugu government announces suspected first case. APC Tinubu pro Omoshomole stalwarts join forces. Okay, so derivation, who has that Okowa doubts?
Yeah, so Governor of Delta State, Okowa, is speaking up concerning what the NNPC is declaring as their income, saying that he doesn't believe that the figures being declared by NNPC is true, that he knows there are issues with the oil revenue, he knows that there'll be fluctuation, but that the result he is getting, that the figure they are hearing does not sound true, that they should audit the process of the funds that NNPC is declaring they have and remitting to the federal account. He's also saying that the 13% derivatives might sound good, but they should be given more, that the issues that happen within oil states that generate oil is terrible, and that 13% is not enough to fix the infrastructural damage that is caused by oil.
Exactly, that's the question I wanted to ask.
Okay, let's move on.
Fire
mystery. Go ahead, please.
So even though he has visited the Alafin of Oyo, who we were made to understand that he wrote a letter to him concerning the issues that he has against the monarchs in Ekiti State. The monarchs and being represented by the Ilawe of the Ilawe monarch has called the Alafin, has asked them to call the Alafin to order that what he's doing is meddlesome. is interfering in issues that do not concern him. So they don't appreciate his interference at all in the issues that
only
they
wrote a
have.
letter.
The Alaafin only wrote a letter and also cautioned the the Ondo State governor from the Ekiti State governor, from with dethroning any monarch.
Yeah.
But we don't understand what the body of the letter itself is. But now they are saying what he's doing is meddlesome. You should.
But I
not
saw a copy of that
interfere.
letter, and I think it was just pretty much as giving him that subtle warning that, listen, don't
That's the
compare
story in
yourself
the
to
Vanguard. I was
other
shocked.
regions that are doing this kind of dethronement. But I think
I
the
was shocked
government
to
himself
see
came.
the Lawe speaking on behalf of the Ekiti State monarchs and cautioning the Alaafin of Oyo.
I like the fact that the governor actually did, and he did.
And I'm happy that he did that. So the pictures.
And it was pretty good. Moving on to Daily Sun. Armageddon hits Lagos. As I said, that's our focus today, so we'll talk about that a bit later. Delta community youths chase out herdsmen. I'm not involved in your travails, Malami tells Sanusi. No record of spending $5 billion Bacha Lute's federal government. Saturday Mall's 10-year compulsory national census. Anambra South appeal court decides Uba's fate this week. Okay, let's talk about Delta community for a second.
Yes, so herdsmen numbering about 20 armed with crude weapons and cutlasses and knives. Cutlasses and knives were, caught in the Eku community. So youths, a particular woman saw them entering the community and then raised an alarm. And so youths gathered and they caught them and they asked where they were coming from. They obviously were running away from another community, which is Jesse Town. And so they decided to come hang in Eku, but then they decided to chase them out. So they watched them while they got into taxis heading to Benin. Now, we've been taking reports here where Delta State, they are complaining that some communities in Delta State are under siege. So this is more like everybody coming out to say we can't tolerate this herdsmen anymore.
I wanted to take the story of the Senate is trying to make adjustment to the Constitution, Section 213 of the Nigerian Constitution, that is making it compulsory that every 10 years they begin to have the census. So right now it's not compulsory. There's no time frame within when they can do the census. So according to, I think, the global standard, they're trying to ensure that our Constitution supports and backs the 10-year continuous census so that we at least know, and
how
can
many
plan for Nigerians. Let's move on to the Nigerian Tribune. Lagos explosion kills 15, destroys 50 houses. Fayemi visits Alaafin over Ekiti Obaship crisis. Tinubu backs Oshomole. Coronavirus, Kenya, Senegal, Rwanda, Ghana issue travel ban and close schools. So while Nigeria is still monitoring the situation, we are the largest number of population in Africa. We are still monitoring. Other countries seem to be taking action. Who has that story?
So I have the story. The Rwanda government has not just closed schools; they've stopped, all public gatherings, including churches. Every student are, supposed to stay back home. Ghana has imposed travel ban. Kenya has imposed travel ban, and Nigeria says that we will continue to monitor incoming travelers, according to the Minister for Interior.
Even the Vatican.
Ghana imposed the travel ban on all those countries that have over 200
Even Senegal
cases.
closed all schools.
Yeah.
All schools are closed
So
presently.
we are just doing jollof here. We're just
Vatican.
6
It's
cases
saying
that they
don't
have
spread
in
fear
Ghana.
or panic. The caution is necessary everywhere, but like this reactionary, everybody running around. So we've had 2 cases right now. 1 case, and I think they said the second
Ghana, I
case.
think they have
was on
6.
the board.
It's just that the people our borders are still open.
People are taking
People
measures.
are coming in from different parts of the
But
world.
we started taking measures far before every other country started doing it.
I agree.
People are checked at the airports. All those things are being done.
I agree that Nigeria has really been doing an amazing job on this, but because of what is happening in Europe, in all the European countries, they are so relaxed on this, and there's a faster spread in Europe and America. They have 100+ cases in America, and Nigerians, of course, are the fast, the highest travelers. They go everywhere. We'll be coming back.
Vatican has said that the Easter celebrations is going to do the mass alone. He's not having congregation. So
Okay, let's take a final paper, Daily Trust, very quickly. APC NEC meets tomorrow as Tinubu, 11 governors back Oshomole. Dakwa residents grown as FCDA demolishes 200 houses. Electricity consumers, industrialists, others flay generator importation ban. 2019 polls, INEC, CSOs differ on U.S. claims.
we've heard of the bill that is about to ban the importation and sale of generating sets. And so, electricity bodies are speaking up. The consumers are talking about it. They are saying that, okay, first of all, we got a record from the transmission company in Nigeria, and they're saying that the demand for electricity is 2,790 megawatts. And so far, we only generate about 5,000 to 4,000 megawatts, saying that it's not enough for the 120 million that have access to that per generation, not to talk of the 80 million that don't even have access to it at all. So people are complaining that instead of having this ban, we should find a way to provide more like solar, give us alternatives at the end of the day before you just go for an outright ban. I hope we'll have a public hearing.
Yeah, because honestly,
so
we have not really
all
focused on this generational thing, because for me, it still sounds a bit unrealistic. I'm like, why would you want to ban? But as past second reading now, we have to pay attention to it. So we're supposed to talk about it today, but we'll see how things go based on the fact that our focus this morning really is on explosion. We want to speak to Lasema, we want to speak to the government, we want to speak to people in that neighborhood, we want to speak to everyone that can tell us exactly what happened. Because right now, there's no official reason or cause for that explosion. So they were hearing different versions. Someone saying it's gas. Someone saying that the pipelines that were there triggered this magnitude. So there are different reasons. So we'd like to hear what the updates are. But first, we're going to bring in Yemi Adamolekun because she's been fighting. She's been the forefront of human rights, and it's important that we hear her views, especially there are going to be 10 years this year. Enough is enough. It's 10 years this year. So she's going to come on, and hopefully we can just get some answers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Right, so we're still on the conversation around the Black Sunday actually, that happened yesterday in Lagos, as at least 15 persons died from that explosion. I think you want to say something, Yemi, concerning the impact of this. As I said, we're waiting for more live reports and updates from the venue at this time, and I'm told that TVC News is actually still on this conversation. So either way, we'll just keep looking to get the feeds. But going back to, I think we have a caller, but let me start with Yemi Adamolekun.
Yeah, so I think it's also very important at this stage that we get the right information. So that we can ascertain what really caused it. We expect Lasema to be on top of the game to find out the root cause. Let's even have a proper account.
Because 2 weeks.
Yes,
to know.
2 weeks.
Yes, the government has constituted a committee to investigate over the next 2 weeks what exactly happened.
Because so we're beginning to hear conspiracy theories that this is probably more like an insurgency attack. It could be bomb, yes. People are speculating because the way the thing sounded, some people are saying a gas explosion cannot sound that way. It reminded them of the Ikeja cantonment, exactly the way it sounded. So if we don't have the proper account of what exactly happened, people will just, run into panic. And I was even scared for those children. I was grateful to God that we didn't have cases of where those kids were being rescued and miscreants took advantage of the situation to rape those girls, because as you are bringing people out, as you're bringing people out, those young touts around helping to rescue those girls, I was scared when I saw the video.
I call them good boys. Yeah. They're actually good boys.
They are good people. As they say, condition make crayfish best. So we now have a 2 billion naira that will be going into relief.
But the government,
how would it be disbursed?
Can't tell that this morning.
Of course, I know. I'm just asking questions. How would it be disbursed? Who would get the money? The people that built houses there.
Wrongly or rightly?
Wrongly or rightly, would they be getting refund? Because you say, okay, they did not have their CFO, because the problem of getting CFO, some people did not get permits. What is the process of ensuring that the families, this school particularly, would get it rebuilt? Within what time frame? There should be some form of...
If they have. If they don't, we are in trouble.
Ew.
Now, I love that the governor is there. I'm hoping that he's watching, or his aides are watching, that they're informing him. He should look around him. There are trucks parked on the express, on the service lane, all the way, without another exit, all the way to the roundabout on the Alakija bridge. Without getting to Alakija, you cannot escape. I had to drive on the reckless driving back to barracks this morning to access the middle road of the express to get to work. Now, aside that happening, there's also this cluster of activities around, because the terminals always leave their tankers, their containers parked on the road. Truck drivers are parking recklessly. If you wanted to carry in an emergency situation to rescue people, there'll be impediments on your way to get out. So those are issues that must be tackled. We must have authority controlling traffic. We must have authority clearing waste, because I hear now that they're going to deploy 200 sweepers. It's not sweeping, no. It is collection of waste.
Yes.
And where you take it? Okay, let me take this call.
It is collection.
You're holding for a while. Good morning. Are you there?
Good morning.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
I would love to talk about this Lagos explosion of yesterday. I was at Ikeja yesterday, and I heard the sound, like it was very loud. It sounded like a thunderclap. And I was so shocked that I was thinking it was rainfall or something. But I didn't know that it was actually something that bad until when I checked my phone and I saw news about the bomb and everything. I went for a wedding. But I would love to say this, that Lagos State government doesn't care about Nigeria. In fact, they don't care about us, because I saw the deputy governor at that wedding. I saw him at that wedding, and I was so shocked that something like this is happening right now. And nobody is attending to this.
I see.
But I think, Deputy Governor, okay, I wanted to just talk about the buildings when we were talking about what caused it, because part of it is also, we also need to take a bit of responsibility. So yes, there are the issues of the Lagos State government not being proactive, not putting things in place, but also when we deliberately shortcut processes in place to build in areas, to build buildings to certain specifications, we're also paying that price.
Yeah.
And we must be willing to hold ourselves accountable. When we see people, just as you said, building will just round up within 2 weeks, you just suddenly see the building. You wonder, did it go down before it started coming up? and who gave approval? But it's in sort of highbrow areas that you see X building mark for demarcation. But in those areas, buildings just go up and nobody's being held accountable. And because on Friday, for example, I think it's a Builder Society, marked the National Builders Day in memory of those who have died in collapsed buildings. So they are trying to say, we're here. We're here to certify. But if you don't come to us to get a permit and you get one through Lagos State, or people are watching you build and we then have these problems, then this thing continues. And I really want to appreciate the caller that just called. And it's the power of, in a sense, one person holding government accountable.
Right.
And she's saying that now that she got home and she saw that, wait a minute, this thing was still burning. The footage that we saw, it was still at night. Yeah. So she's wondering that, wait a minute, I just left a function and I'm glad she called.
Let me take this call. It's been holding. Hassan, are you there?
I'm here.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, sir.
It's a very sad situation in Lagos and all over Nigeria. I sympathize with people concerned and even the passerbys. The problem we're having in that side, right from Agboju, Alakija, Abule Ado, Abule Osho, and whatsoever, it was so glaring. The pipeline is there to the scene of everybody. You see, we should be responsible, because I can see us having this one-way traffic of thinking. All the time, government. What of we people? Are we responsible? And around that area, the Omonile are fully in charge. No building control.
Yes,
people are building anyhow. Up to the International Trade Fair, people are building. On the right side, going to Ojo Barracks. People should check themselves. Government should regulate building in Lagos State. People are building and later going to seek for approval. That is what is called corruption. Government should be overdoing, people should be overdoing. In that area, it's a serious issue. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hassan, for talking about government, overseeing approvals. There's a practice, and it's very appalling, within the Lagos State where a person seeking to get approval is told to continue to pay and not to worry. Some people will advise you that don't worry, in a few years government might waive. We see this happening. I was advising a client that your property is within acquisition in Lekki. There's nobody in this world who will give you approval for building. And another agent was collecting 120 from him every month in the name of, settling people. And she is a Lagos State staff.
Ew.
So please, we need to look within. Government should start to check their people. And there should be maybe an open place like we have in the police where someone can report such a person that could have picked up an name.
Let me take a few tweets
about her. So Omobola says, Department of Petroleum Resources officials don't seem to have blood running in their veins. Otherwise, they will have placed premium on human lives before doling out licenses for people to cluster residential areas with petrol and gas stations. Life is not all about money. He also says the state government should be commended for their initial response. However, it's important that we put in measures to prevent similar reoccurrence. Also, houses built around an area as volatile and risky as that should be pulled down.
Ashikpa James says, wow, truly good people, as I wept yesterday seeing young boys risking their lives to save the young secondary school girls. Moving forward, we must emulate our creator by being organized in our social existence. I want to really just add that a lot of these buildings have been damaged, and the government needs to be on top of it to be sure that they don't just do a patchwork. Because some people would not want to pull down the houses without understanding that for the house to get damaged to the roof level, it means the foundation has been compromised. So you cannot have them just saying, oh, we'll just slap in.
We'll have experts coming to do that.
No, we would expect that they should, but in another society, they shouldn't have these buildings up close to that place in the first place. So they should be pulled
will no longer
down.
be safe for occupation. So they should
sincerely doubt
the government
that the government wants to do a patchwork on
involved,
this. I mean,
It's not the government, it's the individual owners.
The owners.
Mariah, we've had cases where situations happen and they will write X on the building and say it's compromised, and people will patch up and paint over it, and they will still be renting out those houses. So we need to have stronger supervision, because innocent people that have no idea what is going on will go and leave these houses and now
we
be paying
have
the
to go on a
prices
break.
later.
But I mean, as much as we try to criticize the government, which I totally agree with, totally, at the same time, we also need to understand that these things happen. Sometimes we cannot predict when these things happen. We've even seen powerful countries like United States, once the coronavirus came in, they're totally ill-equipped to handle the situation. So no matter how prepared the government say they are in certain sectors, whether we like it or not, these things happen and you have to take action. So as much as we can criticize, which is good, but at the same time, we must also appreciate what they have done so far. So when we come back, we'll take a few calls. I'm still waiting for calls, especially from people in that neighborhood. Tell us your experience. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. We have Yakub, who's been holding for a while. Yakub, are you there?
Yeah, Mariah, I'm there. Good morning.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning to your guys. And then good morning to you all in the studio.
Good morning, Oga.
Mariah, my kudos go to Sister Nima this morning. And then I have reason for saying that. I can say that since the day that Sister Nima joined this, your field, she has been talking about this very particular area since the day of World Go. And then even though some people even take it personal, that blaming Nima, there was a time some people telling her that he should leave the place that he was staying instead of crying about that place every day. So, for me, the Lagos state government now budgeted 2 billion naira, if I'm correct. This money is supposed to use to build a power station there in order for, if anything happens, case. Now, from Ikeja, from Ojuelegba down to that place, I didn't think that it's the working day. What will you think? And then for me, I think it is a time that Lagos State need to get a helicopter that can be able to fight all these kind of things in terms of hold up and all that, so that they can build all the hold up and get to that place in time. So my condolence and the sympathy goes to the people that lost their life. May God Almighty forgive them anything that they have committed before they go. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you. So let me come to Yemi, because I know that one of the reasons why you came also is because enough is 10 years. And this is obviously one of the reasons why I would like Nigerians to participate, to keep talking, because that's what NEMA has done for the past few years now. Because initially it started with just traffic, coming to work late. Gradually, they now started with the fact that the tankers congested the expressways. And she kept telling us about the fact that the tank farms are in the neighborhood. So these are things that we've seen how that's progressively deteriorated. So enough obviously has been a vehicle to get citizens to speak, and you're 10 years. So tell us a bit about what you're planning for this 10th year anniversary and how Nigerians can get involved in to continually speak against oppression and bad governance.
Thank you. When Enough is Enough started, it started from one email. Chude wrote an email, and the premise was the Nigeria that we're going to live in, we need to take an interest in it. So the likes of your Wole Soyinkas cannot be the ones protesting that something is wrong. So that led to the protest march. So it's actually today, exactly 10 years ago, protest in Abuja. And at that time, the demands were three. President Yar'Adua was sick. We didn't know where he was. There were killings in Jos, which would make the current killings look like child's play. And there was fuel scarcity. But the whole essence at that time was just trying to get young Nigerians to speak up. And young Nigerians that usually wouldn't. So young professionals, so people left their offices that day and came, bank, all sorts of private sector officers came to the protest, celebrities and students. And over the last 10 years, as we as an organization have done different actions, different protests, different advocacies, we've also pushed the concept of the office of the citizen, that ultimately the office of the citizen is the highest office in Nigeria. And it's the highest office because, to Nima's point, it's citizens that put people in office. Yeah. It's citizens that build wrongly. It's citizens that cut corners with state officials. That ultimately, without citizens, we don't have a society. So citizens should step into their office and then from their office hold people you've elected and then hold them accountable. And that's been our trajectory over the last 10 years. And so for our 10th anniversary, we're actually launching a one-person campaign. And the idea is that one person can make a difference. There's actually a quote by John F. Kennedy that says, one person can make a difference and everybody should try. And Nancy Obi has an interesting one. She says, I believe in the power of one citizen to stand up to evil and hold public officials accountable. And I think if we use this current scenario, for example, they're elected officials, they're community elders, they're leaders in that community. If all this happens, Nima is doing her own bit by constantly talking about it. And that's what she has, a platform, and she's using her voice. And she's constantly talking about it. But in all the people that live in that area, if all this happens and everybody goes back to status quo, we would have failed ourselves as a society. Because ultimately, it's your house, your child, your community, yourself, and your well-being that's sitting in traffic for 4 hours, not having the quality of life that you want. And people, I mean, when people ask me why I do what I do, I say very simply that I believe I deserve better. So even if it's from a very selfish point of view, that my life does not need, there's no reason for it to be that complicated. So for each one person, if we think about it in that context, that, you know what, I can make a difference in whatever way. From the people who were rescuing the schools, you said so, that we have good people. They could have said that, hey, look at that building, deal with them,
children. One of the reasons, I'll come to you, Tokwe. One of the reasons why I love this show is the fact that we don't live in a bubble.
Yes.
Because, and I try to be very deliberate on the kind of people that we bring on this show and the kind of ladies that we have, because we have to face what Nigeria is. There are different types of Nigeria. There are the Nigerians in the bubble, that, you know what, we are happy, we have a beautiful house in Banana Island, we're traveling, any small thing, we're out. We're out. There's that Nigerian, which is fine, there's a market. But the vast majority are Nigerians who face reality. And that's one of the reasons why I appreciate the fact that Nima is on this show and she's spoken on this issue, and we're seeing what she's been warning about. Some of it is already happening. And even Tokwe tells her experience as an entrepreneur, the challenges she's having. That's the real Nigerian. That's the Nigerian trying to build a business. So we are real. And it's important that what's painful is that our leaders are not seeing the importance of the feedback they're getting from this platform. You're getting raw feedback from Nigeria for free. And it's sad that they keep coming, trying to give us the same rhetoric, and we're saying, we want you to act. So aside from the 2 billion relief fund which the government is doing, we'd like to see more things done. Active. That, you know what, we're taking this seriously. Tokwe, I'd like you to jump in now.
So I know the fact that one person can make a difference, and we've seen that happen across the world. And we need to encourage it, because most of the time when people come up and speak concerning the things that are wrong, we tend to critique them, find their weakness, attack their person, and deal with them as opposed to dealing with the issue they've raised. And then we paint them bad and break down their character and integrity just because they decided to speak against the issue stays. And the issues continue. SLS is an example. Obesity is an example. And then we paint it as drama. And then we try to bribe them to break the fence they've built for the people. So I applaud people that have spoken up concerning this kind of thing, because really we need to have more of them. But like you said, 10 years ago, you people took to the streets over like 1% of what is happening right now. People are dying in the north, they are dying in the south, they are dying in the east, they're dying in the west, and we seem to have now gotten so used to the number of deaths every day. We read it and we're like, It's happened again. They kidnapped one person.
Hey, yeah.
They kidnapped another person. Hey, yeah. Thank God we got a testimony that it's only my roof that left. I did not die.
Imagine that.
You know, it's only my roof that went. It did not.
I have to go on a break, but I like.
So how do we now? How can we go beyond? How can Nigerians on the streets, seeing the issues around them, what can they do on a daily basis to involve their representatives? Who are they to call? How do they push it? How do they get enough to engage them to follow up with something they know would be a disaster waiting to happen?
I'll let you answer that question after this break, because I know one of the things you want to do is to see how we can activate this citizen in how to participate. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
So you talked about, welcome back. So you talked about the Office of the Citizenry and what they can do. I know you have a hashtag. So what exactly would you like Nigerians to do?
So right now, we're curating 60 stories. So of people who have a one-person story. What is the thing that you have led or championed that has changed your community? And we were talking about, for example, the Emir of Kano offline. I'll use him as an example because he's one of our one-person stories. And that's the law he's put before the Kano state government that he says Kaduna will pass in. That would significantly change the turns of young girls and women in Kano around age to get married, around access to education, around access to healthcare. And he's been able to do that because of his knowledge of the Quran. So he basically used Islamic law and the Quran to propagate a bill that will not contravene the Quran, but empowers young girls and women. And that's one example. And for example, in Enugu, we had a young man who heard radio about his ability to engage government and said, oh, okay, the police are harassing us in this area. What can we do? And got the commissioner of police to come and stop the problem. In Katsina, it was also the same thing. So we're curating all these stories because one of the things we've also realized is that people don't get excited when they know that it's possible. So by sharing success stories of one person who's made a difference, we want to encourage more people to share their one-person story. So the hashtag is one person, and you can go to eie.ng and tell us or tag us on social media at EIE Nigeria, your one-person story.
Okay, so following the premise of one person makes a difference, it tells me that with one singular action or inaction, it trickles down to affect other people. So for instance, if you are meant to, approve the plan of a proper building and you cut corners and take bribe, that building tomorrow will collapse and affect your neighbor or, so it just goes like that. Now, and I also understand that we are the government because the truth is every singular person is, the citizen is a leader as well, and you may be able to get into a position of power sometime in the future. What do you do in a situation where you find yourself? What do you do as a citizen to ensure that you have integrity in everything you do? Because I realize that a lot of people are actually on the sidelines condemning the government, but when they get there, they repeat the same thing. So how do we get out of that rat race?
To Thomas' point earlier, and I'll use an analogy of a frog. If you put a frog in boiling water, the frog jumps out immediately. But if you put warm water on fire, put a frog in it, and set fire to it, and slowly cook it, you will cook the frog. Because as the water boils, the frog adjusts. It's just like, it's a bit uncomfortable. It's a bit uncomfortable. Yes, and that's what you were saying about what has happened over 10 years. And unfortunately, I think for a lot of Nigerians, that's what has happened to us. If I use EIE's 10 years, over the last 10 years, we've gotten numb to certain things because we want to survive. So the thought process of wanting to do any extra work, if I leave my house at 4 to get to work at 9 a.m., the thought to add anything is hard. So, and we understand that. So there's, on our part, a deliberate attempt, one, to share success stories, that it can be done, and it doesn't seem as big. And two, to educate citizens on just why it's important.
And how we can be done, simplifying the process.
And why it's also, and to your point, so that this whole idea of even just being selfish about it, that if I don't do the right thing, it might be my child, it might be me, my neighbor that would then be affected. And it's a process.
I'd like to ask you a question, because during Jonathan's administration, enough was very vocal. You were seen, we saw you. And you seem a bit quiet. I wouldn't say quiet, but it seems like you've been coward. Because I would like you to ask you directly, do you think there's a difference between the previous administration and this administration in freedom of speech and expression? Because people say it, but because you are in it, do you feel you've been silenced somewhat with the arrest of various citizens, left, right, etc., or do you think that this administration actually is a progressive administration and they actually encourage freedom of speech? Let's hear it from you, since you are the one that on the streets.
It's interesting I actually said that, because my T-shirt, I'm wearing the bird from Twitter, and someone trying to strangle it. And the thing is, you can't mute the voice of freedom. I think compared to the Jonathan administration, without a shadow of a doubt, this administration has tried to stifle voice very clearly, from people who've been arrested to hate speech bill, social media bill. The attempts have been very clear. However, that hasn't cowered us. And that's why I boldly wear this, and we're fighting back against those bills. However, for us, the times have changed in terms of an organization and focus. So EIE as a body, i.e. myself, my team, and people who feel like they're members of EIE, can protest, can speak. But the ultimate power is when citizens, with a loud voice, and speak. And that's why over the decade, we've gone from us sort of taking the fight to trying to empower citizens, because that's more sustainable over time. Yes. I am not in Zamfara. I am not in Adamawa. So I cannot protest issues in Adamawa and Zamfara. But there are citizens in Zamfara, there are citizens in Adamawa who, if they understand what power they have, understand the ability to call, then they take about the challenge. And that's why I was saying about success stories. So from my radio program in Zamfara, in Adamawa, in Enugu, we have stories. And it wasn't us. It was because we had a radio program that we enabled. We had partners on the ground who are sending guests, who are educating, and people are listening to the radio program and be like, oh,
I
this power. And
they
they
can.
can. Exactly.
Yemi, your work also encouraged me to speak up. When I joined the show initially, I would, come to the show and I'd be afraid to divert the attention of the show to personal issues. And I continue to see these things. I'll be like, let me not join it. But once when you came here and you spoke about things, I felt, the next day we took in the papers, government had responded. I said, okay, they're hearing, they will hear. So we started speaking up. I think you should continue to do what you're doing, and a lot of people should feel okay, whatever platform that you have, to speak up. I must commend media, 101%, because even the Satellite Town Forum was here on Your View. On radio stations across the country, in Lagos, newspapers responding quickly. Punch especially, I must commend Punch and Vanguard for what they do. Speaking up against all those things and giving us a platform all the time when we need to talk about it, and not just also a lot of other issues.
I know that one of the key things about what this one-person campaign is that same way, the same exact situation where you go to the State House of Assembly, or you go into the ministry, or you go to the school, and you try to get something done, and someone blocks you or someone demands a bribe. Your duty as a citizen is to get the person's name and mention it. Because when we start naming what corruption is to everybody, then we will start curbing it. But if we keep thinking that it's only by insulting the governor or insulting the senator that will deal with it, we must drill everyone in the line of leadership at every level and hold them accountable to do what is right.
Unfortunately, that's all we can take. Once again, our hearts go out to Reverend Sister Henrietta and the other family member, Reverend Father, who lost their lives in this explosion. We'll continue to monitor the updates on this story and give you the, if you stay on TVC News, you definitely get the latest updates on what's happening, and especially on the kids that were rescued. I'd like to even know how many of them, how they're doing in the hospitals. So we're going to have this correspondent go there and tell us the welfare and the well-being of these kids. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.